On Monday morning, March 9, 1998, the campus of National Tsinghua University in Taiwan remained immersed in its usual peaceful and harmonious atmosphere. No one could have imagined that in just moments, this tranquility would shatter, giving way to panic and horror that would engulf the entire campus. At the Institute of Radiological Biology Research, a horrifying discovery turned everything upside down. Curled up beneath an air conditioning unit in the back row of a lecture hall lay an unrecognizable, disfigured corpse. The upper portion of the body, particularly the face, had been severely corroded by a powerful chemical agent, leaving the victim's form grotesquely distorted and deformed. Faced with this horrific scene, the university immediately contacted police. When law enforcement arrived at the scene, even seasoned investigators shuddered at the corpse's ghastly condition. They were confronted with penetrating questions. Who could have committed such a brutal act within the university grounds? And more importantly, who was this tortured victim, a student or faculty member? The investigation quickly got underway, beginning with a thorough review of the list of missing female students from the university. Among them, one name quickly stood out to investigators: Jiazhen, a second-year graduate student at the research institute. Information from friends and teachers revealed that this young woman had not appeared and had been completely out of contact for the past 2 days. Her family, especially her parents, were in a state of extreme distress, continuously searching and contacting all of their daughter's acquaintances, but to no avail. With an ominous premonition, police immediately contacted Jiazhen's parents and invited them to identify the body. Standing before the corpse with a face so deformed, charred, and swollen as to be unrecognizable, the girl's parents fell into a state of disbelief. How could they determine if this was their beloved daughter when only such a mangled form remained? In this moment of desperation, investigators found a ray of hope, a pager that remained intact beside the corpse. With trembling hands and a heavy heart, the father dialed his daughter's familiar pager number. In the suffocatingly silent space, the cold ring from the pager beside the corpse sounded, a cruel and merciless confirmation of the victim's identity, ending all fragile hopes the family held that their daughter might still be alive. The deeper investigators delved into examining the scene, the more alarming details they discovered. Jiazhen's body lay in a pitiful state, her shirt pulled up above her chest, pants half removed, creating the appearance of a sexual assault. Signs of a violent struggle were evident everywhere, from scratches on the floor to scuffle marks around the corpse. The most notable detail was a used condom found beneath the victim's left arm. Given these initial signs, the hypothesis of rape followed by murder seemed most plausible. Investigators focused on this direction, beginning the process of collecting evidence, taking DNA samples, and searching for fingerprints at the scene. However, after thorough crime scene examination and initial analyses by the forensic team, the complete picture gradually emerged with unusual aspects. The level of intentional staging at the scene was too obvious. From the body's arrangement to the condom's placement, everything showed signs of an effort to mislead investigators. Crime scene experts concluded, "This is not a typical sexual assault. The entire scene clearly shows signs of being deliberately staged to misdirect the investigation." Clearly, the perpetrator not only wanted to kill Jiazhen, but also intentionally created a false scene to direct suspicion elsewhere. A clue suggesting this was a case with motives far deeper than what appeared on the surface. As they followed the perpetrator's trail, investigators realized that despite their intention to conceal the crime, the killer was gradually revealing their true nature. Clues from the scene began to paint a portrait of the perpetrator through seemingly minor details. The first factor limiting the scope of suspicion was the research institute's security system. To enter this building required a specialized access card, an invisible barrier that ruled out the possibility of an outsider randomly breaking in. Those with regular access to the lecture hall where the body was discovered were mainly students from the Institute of Radiological Biology Research, narrowing the circle of suspects to a specific group. On the floor in front of the lecture podium, they discovered a strange pattern. At regular intervals, blood spatter marks appeared, forming a line running along the stairs leading upward. Although the perpetrator had tried to clean them, many locations still showed clear traces. Notably, some of these bloodstains contained small fibers, almost certainly hair strands, suggesting the victim had been struck hard on the head, causing severe bleeding. Additionally, the direction of the bloodstains showed the body had been dragged from bottom to top, but the key point lay in the bloodstains stopping at each stair edge. These stopping points were like a silent confession. The perpetrator lacked sufficient strength to drag the victim up the stairs in one go, forced to rest after each step. This was a suspicious detail. An adult male with normal physical strength would not encounter such difficulty. All these signs led to a surprising preliminary conclusion. This case was very likely committed by a single person, and that person was probably a woman. A discovery that completely changed the direction of the investigation, shifting from searching for a male sexual predator to a much more complex motive, possibly involving a personal relationship between the victim and another woman. The forensic examination report continued to reinforce initial suspicions while clarifying many aspects of the case. An important discovery completely overturned the initial hypothesis. Victim Jiazhen had not been sexually assaulted at all, despite the scene being staged to suggest otherwise. This detail further confirmed that the perpetrator deliberately created a false scene to mislead the investigation. Crime scene experts continued discovering strange traces on the ground. At regular intervals, parallel streaks with distinctive shapes appeared. Initially, the investigation team suspected these were the perpetrator's bare footprints, but after more thorough analysis under professional lighting and magnifying glasses, they reached a different conclusion. These streaks are not bare footprints. These are traces of blood-stained socks stepping on the floor, a forensic expert explained. The detail was analyzed further when they noticed the smooth horizontal ridges and regular patterns in the traces, as well as their evenly spaced appearance. Combining these factors, the investigation team deduced that the perpetrator was very likely wearing short socks with horizontal ridges, a type of sock typically used by female students. The final factor closing the circle of suspicion was the body's corroded condition. Experts determined the victim was attacked with a particularly strong acid capable of rapidly corroding tissue. When notified of this discovery, university administration conducted an emergency inventory and discovered a disturbing fact. Some chemicals used to prepare this type of acid had been moved or were missing compared to laboratory records. Moving into the second day of investigation, the police team began broadening their scope, focusing on Jiazhen's social network. They conducted simultaneous interrogations of dozens of classmates, close friends, and staff working at the Institute of Radiological Biology Research. Through cross-interviews and comparing testimonies, a complex picture of the victim's private life gradually emerged. After many hours of meticulous work, the investigation team identified two main suspects, Zheng Huantai, a talented doctoral student at the institute, and Hong Xiaohui, both Jiazhen's classmate and close friend. However, the surprise wasn't the suspects' identities, but the complicated relationship among the three. This isn't an ordinary love triangle, an investigator noted after recording testimonies from multiple sources. According to information from fellow students, beneath the serious exterior of a scientific research institute lay an incredibly complex emotional network. Zhu Jiazhen and Hong Xiaohui had a very special relationship. They were both the closest of friends and mortal enemies in love. Both were infatuated with the same man, Zheng Huantai, the talented and charismatic senior student at the institute. Testimonies showed this affection didn't stop at simple admiration, but had reached serious levels, with extreme behaviors to compete for his affection. Evidence from the scene, the used condom, suddenly became meaningful when DNA analysis results showed the fluid inside belonged to Zheng Huantai. However, when summoned and informed of Jiazhen's death, Huantai showed genuine shock. He firmly stated that throughout the 2 days Jiazhen was missing, they had maintained normal contact via the internet. When the police digital investigation team traced Jiazhen's online activities, they discovered a suspicious detail. On the university's BBS forum, on the morning of March 7th, from an account named Xiao Xiao, the intimate nickname Jiazhen commonly used, a message was sent to someone with the nickname Dada, confirmed to be Zheng Huantai. More specifically, that evening at 9:20 p.m., Huantai received an email from Xiao Xiao's address. However, when cross-referenced with autopsy results, a clear contradiction emerged. The forensic report determined that Jiazhen had died between 2 and 5 a.m. that same day, before those messages were sent. A major question arose. If Jiazhen was no longer alive, who was using her account to communicate with Huantai? After many hours of intensive interrogation, investigators eliminated Zheng Huantai from the main suspect list. He truly didn't know about Jiazhen's death and had sufficient alibi evidence at the time of the crime. Witnesses confirmed he was present at another location, unrelated to the crime scene. Attention now turned to the remaining suspect, Hong Xiaohui. Unlike the usual panic of innocent people when facing murder charges, Xiaohui was too calm, almost arrogant, as if playing a psychological game. Xiaohui's testimony raised more suspicions. She claimed the last time she saw Jiazhen was early morning on March 7th, when she arranged to meet her friend outside to discuss their relationship with Huantai. According to her statement, the meeting lasted until 6 a.m. However, comparing this with the forensic report, Jiazhen had died before 5 a.m., meaning she couldn't have been present for the conversation Xiaohui described. Experienced investigators realized there were only two possibilities. Either Xiaohui had misremembered the time, or she was deliberately lying to create a false alibi. A crucial breakthrough came when the digital investigation team expanded their monitoring scope. By tracing the mysterious emails sent to Zheng Huantai, they found they originated from a computer in the Institute of Radiological Biology Research's computer room. This wasn't a random computer, but a specific one located in a corner position, relatively hidden from the entrance. The technology expert team immediately retrieved login data from that computer and discovered that just before Xu Jiazhen's account was used to send emails, Hong Xiaohui's account had also been logged into the same computer. The time between the two logins was only 2 minutes, too short to be two different people. To verify further, investigators interviewed everyone present in the computer room at that time. Their testimonies were consistent on one point. Only Xiaohui sat at that computer during the entire relevant period. No one saw Jiazhen appear in the computer room that day. With this data, we have grounds to believe Xiaohui momentarily logged into her own account out of habit, then realized her mistake and logged out to log back in with Jiazhen's account, a digital expert assessed. Although she tried to erase traces, the computer system still retained complete login logs. Although this digital evidence built a case with many suspicious circumstances against Hong Xiaohui, prosecutors still lacked direct evidence connecting her to the murder. There were no fingerprints, no witnesses at the scene, and no clear murder weapon. Xiaohui's attitude during the investigation puzzled investigators even more. She displayed abnormally calm behavior. Even when taken to the morgue to witness Jiazhen's autopsy, a psychological tactic police often use to shock suspects, Xiaohui maintained a cold, almost emotionless expression. That's a concerning reaction, a criminal psychology expert noted. Even if someone isn't the perpetrator, seeing their close friend's body being dissected would cause strong emotional reactions. Her lack of emotion isn't normal. Police changed investigation teams multiple times, using various interrogation tactics, but Xiaohui remained unmoved. Instead of being defensive, she even went on the offensive, warning that many classmates were lawyers and threatening to sue the police in return. Although suspicions were deepening, the case seemed to be reaching a dead end due to lack of decisive evidence. In this situation, the Taiwan Criminal Investigation Bureau decided to bring in a top expert, Chen Xiaogui, head of the Time Determination Center, a legendary figure known as Taiwan's female Sherlock Holmes. With experience and a fresh perspective, Chen Xiaogui decided to re-examine the crime scene from the beginning, focusing on details that might have been overlooked in previous examinations. She patiently examined each of the victim's belongings under special lighting and high-magnification microscopes. This meticulousness yielded unexpected results. On Xu Jiazhen's sweater, hidden among the thick fabric fibers, Chen discovered a broken fingernail fragment, a detail too small to be noticed in routine examinations. "This could be the decisive clue," she said while carefully placing the nail fragment into an evidence bag. The nail fragment was immediately sent to the laboratory for analysis. Forensic experts compared it with nail samples taken from everyone involved in the case, including Hong Xiaohui. The result was undeniable. The broken nail fragment on the victim's clothing belonged exactly to Xiaohui. With the first physical evidence in hand, the investigation team had sufficient grounds to request a search warrant for Xiaohui's residence. The search yielded a discovery of a pair of sneakers with bloodstains that had been attempted to be cleaned, but still showed traces hidden carefully in a corner of the closet. Rapid testing confirmed the blood on the shoes belonged to Jiazhen. Faced with irrefutable evidence, her own broken nail fragment on the victim's clothing, and shoes with the victim's blood in her closet, Hong Xiaohui finally collapsed. The mask of cold arrogance vanished in an instant, replaced by tears and intense remorse. "I didn't mean to do it. We were just arguing. I didn't think that." Xiaohui's fragmented confession gradually revealed a story of jealousy, betrayal, and an impulsive moment that led to irreversible tragedy. In a state of extreme pain and remorse, Xiaohui requested to meet Jiazhen's parents to kneel and apologize. So what kind of love-hate relationship did these two close friends have that led one to push the other into a dark abyss, causing such tragic consequences? Actually, before entering National Tsinghua University, Xiaohui and Jiazhen already knew each other. In 1995, both participated in graduate school preparation classes. Due to common interests, they quickly became friends, often attending classes together. A year later, both successfully passed entrance exams to the Institute of Radiological Biology Research at National Tsinghua University, Taiwan, and were even assigned to the same dormitory room. Their relationship became closer, becoming best friends who hid nothing from each other. This should have been a beautiful coming-of-age story, but with one person's appearance, everything began to change. This person was Zheng Huantai. He wasn't an ordinary character. Born into a prestigious family in Benqiao City, as the only son he was very spoiled, Huantai possessed all the qualities that made him the center of attention. After completing military service, he entered the Graduate Institute of National Tsinghua University, where his talents truly shone. With outstanding academic abilities, he was allowed to skip directly to the doctoral program after just 1 year of graduate study, a rare honor few students achieve. However, not only intellectually exceptional, Huantai also possessed handsome features and elegant demeanor, making him the dream object of many female students on campus. The laboratory where he worked always had girls coming by with the excuse of seeking academic advice, but actually to get closer to the talented doctoral candidate. Although he had a stable relationship with a female student from the same institute, this didn't seem to prevent Huantai from receiving admiration from other girls. In the closed environment of the research institute, where everyone met daily in limited space, emotions and relationships often became more concentrated and intense. Jiazhen, with her lively personality and passionate nature, was quickly attracted by Huantai's charm. Despite knowing he had a girlfriend, she couldn't control the stirrings in her heart. With youthful naivety, she believed her love was special enough to overcome all barriers. Like many girls in love, Jiazhen needed someone to confide in, and who could understand her better than her closest friend? During long nights in the dormitory, she poured out all her passionate feelings to Hong Xiaohui. What Jiazhen didn't expect was that her confidences were falling on the ears of someone who was also secretly in love. Xiaohui had nurtured feelings for Huantai for a long time, but with her quiet nature, she never revealed them, not even to her closest friend. Each time Jiazhen enthusiastically talked about Huantai, Xiaohui's heart would tighten with pain and jealousy. The complexity increased to its peak when Xiaohui, driven by fear of losing the man she secretly loved, acted more boldly than her quiet exterior suggested. Not only did she secretly approach Huantai, she went further than Jiazhen, establishing a physical relationship with him, all happening behind the back of her naively trusting friend. While the two young women sank deeper into this battle for affection, Zheng Huantai, the central figure of this love triangle, displayed an astonishing attitude. Instead of clarifying boundaries or ending the unclear relationships, he irresponsibly enjoyed his position of being pursued. Despite having a girlfriend, he happily accepted the affections of both Jiazhen and Xiaohui. Although he publicly declared that he regarded the two girls merely as friends and younger sisters, in secret, he had relationships with both. The strange aspect of this story lay in the relationship between Jiazhen and Xiaohui, a complex interweaving of friendship and rivalry. Despite competing for the same man and enduring heartache from betrayal, they maintained a peculiar alliance when facing threats from outside. The image of two girls who could argue fiercely in the morning but become inseparable allies by afternoon when someone else approached Huantai reflected the distorted nature of this relationship. The absurdity reached its peak with the formation of a girlfriend ranking, an implicit agreement about dividing Huantai's time and attention. In this strange hierarchical system, Jiazhen held the second position after the official girlfriend, while Xiaohui stood in third place. From July 1997, the tense relationship began manifesting in concrete actions, when Huantai's official girlfriend's means of transportation became the target of a series of mysterious sabotage incidents. Tires would be punctured soon after being repaired. By October, the situation escalated more seriously when this girl's important experimental data was also mysteriously deleted. Huantai told others he suspected Jiazhen and Xiaohui were responsible. However, without concrete and convincing evidence, these accusations ultimately remained mere rumors among graduate institute students, and the incidents gradually faded into oblivion without any consequences. The duo's hatred didn't stop at targeting the official girlfriend. Anyone showing signs of closeness to Huantai risked becoming the next victim on their blacklist. By November 1997, Huantai had invited an administrative assistant named Han from the Research Institute out for a late dinner, which made Jiazhen and Xiaohui violently jealous. Not long after, on December 2nd, a carefully orchestrated plan was executed. Jiazhen skillfully approached Ms. Han after work hours, claiming she needed help checking a problem in the restroom. Due to work responsibilities, Ms. Han went with her. Upon reaching the restroom, she discovered Xiaohui was also there. Without giving Ms. Han a chance to understand what was happening, the situation quickly escalated to violence when Xiaohui, without warning, threw a direct punch to Ms. Han's chin. Accompanying this violent act was a clear threat. Ms. Han must cease all interaction with Huantai or face more serious consequences. After the violent incident, Ms. Han immediately reported to the department head, hoping to receive a formal apology from the two misbehaving students. However, when summoned and confronted with the accusations, both Jiazhen and Xiaohui unanimously denied any involvement in the incident, creating a difficult situation to handle. In this dilemma, the department head believed Xiaohui, with jealous signs previously observed, was entirely capable of violent behavior, but simultaneously didn't completely trust Ms. Han's testimony. Initially, the school proposed a formal solution requiring Jiazhen and Xiaohui to write confessions and pledge not to repeat such behavior. However, due to lack of enforcement mechanisms or sufficient sanctions, this proposal ultimately became an empty requirement, not seriously implemented. In seeking alternative solutions, the school invited parents from both sides to discuss the incident. However, parents of both Jiazhen and Xiaohui couldn't accept that their daughters, excellent, well-behaved students in their eyes, could commit such violent acts, leading to a deadlock in resolving the conflict. Faced with the inability to reach consensus, the department head made a final proposal to Ms. Han. If she wanted to pursue legal responsibility for the two students, the school was ready to provide relevant documents and testify during litigation proceedings. However, perhaps not wanting the incident to escalate into a complex lawsuit affecting her work and personal life, Ms. Han ultimately chose not to pursue the matter legally. The final result from the school's handling process was the lightest possible measure. Jiazhen, Xiaohui, and Huantai were banned from the third-floor north restroom area where the incident occurred, except for legitimate academic needs. This measure served two opposing purposes: preventing Jiazhen and Xiaohui from continuing to harass Ms. Han, while also implicitly protecting them from potential false accusations by Ms. Han. The relationship between Jiazhen and Xiaohui appeared like a contradictory painting, with lines of alliance and rivalry intricately intertwined. During moments when a common threat appeared, when other girls showed signs of closeness to Huantai, Both immediately set aside all differences, forming a unified front that created an effective barrier against any potential rivals. However, as soon as external threats disappeared, their relationship immediately returned to a tense state. No longer allies, they shifted to being each other's most dangerous opponents. This situation created a constantly tense environment where every trivial matter had the potential to become the trigger for larger conflicts. Jiazhen had confided to friends about her deep dissatisfaction with Xiao Hui. In her mind, Xiao Hui was someone who came later in the race for Huan Tai's affections, but displayed greedy behavior, wanting to possess everything, even brazenly demanding that Jiazhen give up her boyfriend. Jiazhen's confidences revealed a sad perspective on her relationship with Huan Tai. Though knowing she couldn't keep him forever, she still longed to enjoy brief moments of happiness before graduation. Under increasing pressure from Xiao Hui's competition, Jiazhen shifted to a material strategy to consolidate her position. With a well-off family background, her father was head of the technical department at a renowned Taiwan store, she began a conquest campaign through gifts. Increasingly valuable and frequent gifts were given to Huan Tai, from small daily items to high-value objects. Huan Tai's reaction to these gifts further aggravated the situation. Instead of refusing as a responsible man should, he happily accepted everything. To compete with Jiazhen, Xiao Hui also began giving gifts. Her family situation was also decent, but could only be considered middle class. Money to buy gifts for Huan Tai wasn't abundant. To meet this gift-giving competition, Xiao Hui, who should have been busy with her graduation project, went to work at a bar to earn money. She even found a wealthy man as backup. This man was very attentive to her and gave her 2 credit cards with very high limits. After receiving the cards, she used the entire credit limit to buy an expensive mobile phone for Huan Tai. Of course, given Huan Tai's means, he could completely afford to buy it himself, but for such a luxurious and expensive gift, he still happily accepted it. Clearly, this race couldn't determine a winner, only deepening the jealousy and hatred between the two girls. Their hatred deepened daily, and the final event that led to the explosion of everything arrived. On the morning of March 6, 1998, Jiazhen lent Xiao Hui her personal credit card for shopping. After completing shopping at noon, Xiao Hui returned the card normally, and both participated in an evening stroll with Huan Tai and another friend. The evening's atmosphere seemed relaxed until Jiazhen decided to buy a pair of shoes and discovered the shocking truth. Her credit card had been used to its limit, making the transaction impossible. In the moment of realizing this, all long-accumulated suspicions and dissatisfaction erupted into a direct accusation. Jiazhen publicly accused Xiao Hui of abusing her trust by stealing her credit card. This made Xiao Hui very angry, believing Jiazhen deliberately humiliated her in front of Huan Tai. Early morning on March 7th, in the tense atmosphere still smoldering from the previous night's incident, Xiao Hui proactively proposed a private meeting at the Research Institute's lecture hall. Both demanded the other stay away from Huan Tai. In the empty space of the lecture hall, words became increasingly harsh and bitter, with each side trying to assert their rights and deny the other's qualifications. When emotions suppressed too long finally exploded, no longer able to control the rising rage, Xiao Hui slapped Jiazhen hard across the face. Not stopping there, she grabbed Jiazhen's hair tightly and slammed her head hard onto the lecture hall's concrete floor, causing Jiazhen to bleed from the head and lose consciousness. At this point, instead of thinking about quickly getting medical help, Xiao Hui ran to the Research Institute to get a bottle of toxic anesthetic and poured it all out, believing this would ensure Jiazhen wouldn't wake up and report her crime. Then, she used all her strength to drag her opponent step by step up to the lecture hall, to behind the air conditioning unit at the back, then used gauze to wipe blood from the floor, after which she hurriedly left the scene, discarded the gauze and blood, then returned to the dormitory to sleep. That day, Xiao Hui tried to appear calm while barbecuing with classmates. Around 9 p.m., she returned to the laboratory lecture hall. Since the toxic anesthetic would create poisonous gas when evaporated, by this time Jiazhen had died of suffocation. To destroy evidence, Xiao Hui obtained chemicals used to prepare acid. Since containers in the laboratory were all used for teaching and research with limited preparation amounts, she could only manage to pour acid on the corpse's face and neck. Afterward, she placed a used condom from her relationship with Huantai, kept as a memento, beside the corpse, trying to frame Huantai. Next, she hacked Jiazhen's password, impersonating her to communicate with Huantai. At court, Xiaohui and Huantai sat next to each other. Facing the man who had driven her to madness, she didn't say a word. Perhaps when killing Jiazhen, she had understood that she didn't love this man as she had imagined. Perhaps initially it was love, but later it became more about jealousy and competition, preventing them from thinking clearly. Otherwise, she wouldn't have ultimately wanted to frame Huantai. On June 10, 1998, Hsinchu District Court announced the first instance verdict. Xiaohui was sentenced to 18 years in prison, deprived of civil rights for 10 years, and ordered to compensate Jiazhen's parents 2.417 million Taiwan dollars, approximately 80,000 US dollars. The appeal court upheld the sentence. Xiaohui abandoned further appeals and began serving her sentence in January 1999. In prison, Xiaohui performed well, actively participated in competitions, and received many commendations. She subsequently applied for parole 4 times but was denied due to the excessively cruel method of murder. Until November 27, 2008, on her 5th parole application, the court found that 34-year-old Xiaohui had a good attitude of repentance, low probability of reoffending, and plans for the future, finally approving her parole request. This case leaves many painful lessons about how love can become tragedy, friendship can turn to hatred, and how a toxic competitive environment can drive people to extreme actions. And that concludes today's case. Thank you for following along, and see you in the next video.